It's the Real News Network, and I'm Ben Norton. A censored undercover investigation into pro-Israel groups in Washington, D.C. has finally been released to the public, and we're joined by the editor of the website that made it this exclusive documentary public to the world. It was originally produced by Al Jazeera, and Al Jazeera's Department for Investigative Journalism produced two documentaries investigating the Israel lobby, one in the UK and the other here in the United States. The one about the Israeli lobby in Britain was published in January 2017 and caused a scandal as it revealed the extent of Israeli interference in internal British politics and the government support to allegedly independent civil society organizations, along with the character assassination of British politicians whom the Israeli government wanted to take down for their criticism of Israel and support for Palestinian rights. Al Jazeera announced that it had produced a second documentary focusing on the Israeli lobby in the US and its influence inside US politics through a network of organizations pretending to be independent civil society organizations, but that were actually steered by the Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs. Although the second documentary in the US had every potential to cause an even greater scandal, Al Jazeera never published it. The documentary was censored by the Qatari government, which funds Al Jazeera. Eventually, however, this four-part documentary series was leaked and is now available to watch in all four parts at the website The Electronic Intifada. Here, let's watch a clip segment that was published by The Electronic Intifada.
I have several weird Facebooks. I have my fake Facebook that I follow like all the SJP accounts. I have like some fake name. My name is Jay Bernard or something. So it just sounds like an old white guy, which is the plan. I joined all these groups. A lot of people haven't added me. I mainly just wanted to see on the newsfeed like what kind of articles they were sharing, just to kind of see what their internal dialogue was. I write a report that I give to my boss who translates it. It's really weird. We don't like talk to them on the phone or like email or whatever. There's like a special like server that's like really secure that I don't have access to because I'm an American. You have to have like clearance to access the server. It's called cables. It's not even necessarily in Hebrew. It's like literally cables. I've seen it. It looks really bizarre. So I write reports that my boss translates into the cables and sends them, and then they'll send something back, and then he'll translate it and tell me what I need to do.
That was a clip from the Lobby USA. This is an undercover investigative documentary that was produced by Al Jazeera but was censored, and it was actually recently published to the entire world online by the website The Electronic Intifada. And joining us to discuss this scandal is the editor and co-founder of this award-winning online publication, The Electronic Intifada. His name is Ali Abunimah. Thanks for joining us, Ali.
Thank you, Ben.
So Ali, you've written many books, you've reported for many years on Palestine, and then of course you co-founded this website, The Electronic Intifada. Can you talk about why you had to publish this documentary that was produced by Al Jazeera and why Al Jazeera did not publish it?
Well, let me start by saying the reason we could publish it, although that does entail some risk. It's not a risk-free enterprise. But the reason we could do it is because we're independent. We're an independent publication supported by our readers, and we're not subject to the same kind of Israel lobby pressure that mainstream media are subject to, and that Al Jazeera was ultimately subject to via the Qatari government, which was bowing to the Israel lobby in order to try to defend and advance Qatar's interests in Washington. So that's the irony of this, is that this documentary really casts light into the dark crevices of how the Israel lobby operates in the United States, including sabotage and smears and media manipulation against college students and activists and professors, and attempts to influence Congress. And the irony is that the very same lobby that this documentary exposes was able to prevent it from being aired on Al Jazeera after Al Jazeera spent, vast resources making it.
Yeah, and let's talk more about what the undercover report reveals. Al Jazeera sent an undercover journalist to join the Israel Project and to report on the clandestine activities of pro Israel groups in Washington, D.C. The work of these pro Israel groups in the U.S. is pretty well known, especially groups like AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, along with J Street, which is the kind of liberal version of AIPAC. Both are pretty well known. So, what has this Al Jazeera documentary that you published revealed about the Israel Project and other lesser known pro Israel groups inside the US political sphere?
Let me say, first of all, that we published it at the Electronic Intifada along with Al Akhbar in Beirut and the French website Orient 21. We all decided to publish it more or less simultaneously, Al Akhbar with Arabic subtitles and Orient 21 with French subtitles, to make it as widely available as possible. But starting in March this year, actually, the Electronic Intifada was the first to report on any of the contents of the film. And in August, we followed up with the first leaked video excerpts from the film. And your colleague, Max Blumenthal, also was able to publish some leaked excerpts back in August at the Gray Zone Project. And what the film shows is that, you know, there's a lot of really gripping detail. I mean, it's kind of like watching a thriller. So I encourage people to actually watch all 4 episodes. But the big picture is that it reveals that a number of major Israel lobby groups, including the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and the Israel on Campus Coalition, are really operating as front groups for the Israeli government in the United States. They are acting as agents of a foreign government without being registered. And that applies not just to the organizations, but to a number of individuals who are seen in the film admitting to coordinating their activities with the Israeli government, including large-scale surveillance and spying on student activists on campus. We have Jacob Baim, the head of the Israel on Campus Coalition, who admits that this is being coordinated with the Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs. We have him describing how anonymous websites are put up to smear and intimidate activists. And the film tells the story of Bill Mullen, a professor at Purdue University in Indiana, who is the victim of exactly the kind of smear campaign that Jacob Baim described, where a number of anonymous websites went up accusing Mullen falsely of sexual harassment of students. I mean, it was plainly a hoax and fake, but it was an attempt to intimidate and silence this professor who had been very active in the academic boycott campaign. And as Bill Mullen says in the film, when he saw these websites accusing him of this, naming his young daughter, one of the websites, you know, even used the name of his daughter, he said, I realized these people would stop at nothing. And I think that's really what the documentary shows, the extent to which Israel and its unregistered foreign agents in the United States are prepared to go to smear and silence people for the mere crime of supporting Palestinian human rights.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. The clip we showed earlier shows how these Israeli government-backed groups are monitoring SJP. SJP is the largest Palestinian Solidarity student organization in the U.S. It's Students for Justice in Palestine. We also saw, thanks to the documentaries that you publish and also the clips published by Max Blumenthal at the Gray Zone Project, we saw that some of these same groups also pressured donors to cancel a Black Lives Matter fundraiser event. So they're clearly targeting activists who are critical of the far-right Israeli government, its crimes against Palestinians, its executions of protesters inside the Gaza Strip, with the weekly protests going on and the Great March of Return. So we see that this documentary exposes how these groups are closely monitoring and even spying on activists here in the U.S. So for young students who want to be involved in the Palestine solidarity movement, there's obviously a very big chilling effect. For older activists who have been involved in the movement for years, there still is this very real possibility of having, their personal lives destroyed, their professional lives targeted. So can you respond to what people have to deal with, especially students? I mean, you spoke about some of the professors, but what Palestine solidarity activists have to deal with thanks to this kind of intense surveillance?
Yeah, it can be very intimidating and disruptive on a personal level. And, there are certainly stories of students feeling that in the film and that we've also reported on for many years. But I think people should look at the big picture, that this operation that the film reveals that Israel has been spending tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on, Israel and its lobby groups, and people like Sheldon Adelson, Donald Trump's biggest campaign donor, and people like Adam Milstein, who is named in the film as he's an Israeli-American financier, a convicted tax dodger, who is named in the film as one of the main funders and founders of the anonymous smear site Canary Mission, which tries to destroy the reputations of college students so that they can't get jobs. It is very scary for individuals, but the big picture here is that Israel is losing the support of progressive segments of society big time. We see that in poll after poll. Just last month, there was a poll from YouGov for The Economist that showed a collapse in support for Israel among progressives, among liberals, among younger people, among people of color, and that the strong support for Israel now looks exactly like Donald Trump's base. It's white, it's male, it's very right wing. And so I think the film should be seen not so much as a testament to the success of the Israel lobby, but of its failure. The fact that they've had to mount this massive operation and it has not been able to staunch the hemorrhage of support for Israel, I think really should encourage people that speaking out is the right thing to do. The more normalized it becomes to talk about Palestinian rights, the less power these smear and intimidation tactics have. So the message I think people should take away is speak out more, not less, because we're winning.
Well, we'll have to end it there. We were speaking with Ali Abunimah, who is the co-founder and editor of the Electronic Intifada. The Electronic Intifada is an award-winning news website that published this censored Al Jazeera documentary with an undercover reporter investigating the Israel lobby in the United States. Thanks for joining us, Ali.
Thank you.
For the Real News Network, I'm Ben Norton.